How are you, sir?
Good, you?
Figured I better jump on early in case people start calling and saying I can't get on.
It's simple.
It's too simple. How's your little guy?
Good. Good. I'm trying to go to bed.
I miss them being that little.
No, you don't.
I do a little bit, but my baby's a senior in high school, so no, I don't completely. I'm done.
Yeah.
It's almost grandparent time.
Yeah, you don't want that yet.
My oldest gets married. My oldest gets married this year, so it's a matter of time.
Well, hopefully. Grandpa Landis.
I'm 46, turning 47. Certainly old enough.
He's not that much old.
I can hear your dude.
Yeah, he's in the bedroom. We just moved, so. But.
Looks like a nice piece of property.
Yeah, I got 14 acres.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it'll be fun. How many are coming to this, do you know?
I have no idea because we didn't do any sort of a pre-register. When I've tried that before with different events, people don't pre-register. So I know, well, let me look here. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 16 different people asked questions. Whether they're all coming or not, I don't know. So 16 asked questions, and on the Facebook side, 12 going. So guess we'll find out. I figured Kiso would already be on.
He's always late to the party.
How's it going?
Hey, Chappie, how are you?
Good. How's it going, Kisa?
Good. You still have no hair.
I took a shower, shaved a little bit. Looking good yourself. How are things?
Good.
You're working, right?
I am. Yeah, really busy actually. So
You're gonna open up the whole state tomorrow or Saturday?
what's that?
Are they gonna open up the whole state for you guys?
We never closed.
That's awesome. I was looking, my brother, he lives in Long Lake, South Dakota. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but it's, yeah. I was looking at where he lives compared to where you're at.
Probably not close, right?
It's closer to the border, North Dakota border, so
Oh, yeah.
way up there.
That's right. I think I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
Are there like 50 people there?
Say that again?
Are there like 50 people in that town?
It's a ranching life, so I assume it's very more cows than people probably. So
Google told me Google said there were 31 people in Long Lake at the last census.
Oh, wow. Great.
We'll see what comes out in 2020.
I might have to get out there and visit. Have more freedom out there, huh?
There's plenty of room. Plenty of room.
Yeah. Sports going on there, like youth, or that's shut down? Here in Utah, it seems like they're trying to get some type of system down where counties, right, are having like low, like green being, everything's pretty much open. Orange is kind of moderate, and red is high risk. So it's kind of nice that here in Utah, it looks like they're trying to let the rural towns go about their business, you know, where it's low risk versus like Salt Lake City, which is
Right.
highly populated. So it'd be nice if all the states kind of implemented that, in my opinion.
Yep. I think we've still, if I remember correctly, we've still got a dozen counties that still don't have an active case or never got a case. So
There was some news today about that new drug. I guess that was effective. Did you see that?
The hydroxychloroquine? Yeah.
No,
No, not that one.
no, it's a different one.
No, I've not.
Yeah, it just came out today. I forget the name of it. But I guess even the White House said it, you know, they're getting good results. Showing recovery and stuff. It's remdesivir or something like that. Have you heard?
I've not.
So hopefully that bode well for the rest of the country.
Well, NBA and MLB are starting to talk about opening facilities up and stuff. So hopefully we're right in line with that.
Hopefully. I need to get back out in the field.
Amen.
Amen. So I see Landis family. Are you related to well, I guess I'm looking at the first name and last name. I was thinking of Landis Wiley, but
Oh, yeah, personally.
We are not related, but we actually ref together at the 05 regionals in Sioux Falls.
Okay. He's South Dakotan, right?
Iowa.
Iowa. Oh, okay.
We're all the same here. It's Iowa, South Dakota, North Dakota, Nebraska.
Yeah. Cool.
I've got 6:30. We'll give everybody about 1 more minute here.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
I lied. I'm not going to give it more time because we start our games on time. That's what we teach people in class, right?
Oh.
So for people that are on, if you don't know me, I'm Chad Landis, your State Director of Instruction. Waving in case you don't know me. Start out by giving a kind of a shout out to Jeremy Kiso, out of South Dakota here. He lined this up for us. He'll kind of mediate this. If you haven't done any of these Zoom calls, they can be fun. I think we're going to ask that you stay muted unless you have a question and want to interact. You can hit your unmute button, or the space bar, I believe, works to temporarily unmute. Some of you sent some questions ahead of time, which is great. I think we got those passed on to Alan. From here, I'm going to turn the show over to Jeremy and sit back and just be a fan here too. So it's all yours, buddy.
All right, sounds good. Excited to see a bunch of people on. I'm sure everybody's looking forward to listening to Alan talk a little bit. Him and I have chatted a couple times, and we're both missing the field just as much as you guys are, I'm sure. Ready to get back out there and do our thing. But so huge thanks to Alan for taking the time out of his day to get on here and chat with us. Like I sent him the questions that were submitted beforehand, give him an idea. So I don't know, Alan, if you want to kind of just take it from there and go, or if you want me to ask some questions, whatever you're comfortable doing.
I think I'm more careful with the questions coming from someone else versus me reading them. So
Yeah.
if you want to pop them out, that'd be great.
Sure.
I'm glad to be here. Hopefully I don't say anything that will offend anyone or make myself look bad, or Jeremy. But if I do, it's just me. I'm just a regular guy that's experienced some cool things in life, especially in the refereeing world. And I love to share and hopefully help where I can. And if you can just capture maybe 1 or 2 things to help you in your refereeing career or in the referee community, great. Yeah, that's why I'm here. So hopefully we can make ourselves, the referee community, better. So go ahead, Jeremy. You're on mute. Mute.
I'm not used to being on mute. I'm usually unmuted all the time.
Great.
We'll just start with the, that general, how long you've been refereeing, how'd you get started? Have you always been in Utah?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't start refereeing until I was 30 years old. Before I got into the refereeing world, I played. I also coached. I played some semi-professional. Was at the time is called USL D3 in Arizona, but grew up in New Mexico. Spent most of my teen life there. Spent 1 year at Fort Lewis College playing Division II soccer. And then we moved to Arizona, and that's where I played some semi-professional, and that's when I got into my coaching career. I did a lot of club. I did some junior college and high school coaching. And eventually one of my buddies that I played with was starting a new club on the west side of Phoenix. and he needed referees, and he was willing to pay for our registration. And so he asked a bunch of us to register. And I started reading the law book, preparing for the test and for the clinic. And I kind of just got hooked. You know, once as a player and a coach, you don't really look at the law book. You just learn through experiences as you play the game and coach the game. So, you know, I pretty much aced the test. Didn't think much about it. I really, at the time I was, as a player and a coach, I wasn't friendly to the referees. I was a very passionate individual, and I'm sure you've all experienced those type of players and coaches. There's a bunch of us out there that really didn't have the referee perspective. So I wanted to get into refereeing because I thought, instead of yelling and continually, you know, maybe berating the referees, and, you know, it wasn't going to change anything for me. It wasn't going to change unless I did something. And for me, it was, okay, let's become a referee. You know, you can talk and complain all you want, but if you actually want to make change, you got to get up and do something about it. So I decided I was going to referee. I had to apologize to a lot of referees, especially administrators. And fortunately, they understood my passion. It was nothing personal. They understood that I was, you know, just very passionate. I love the game. I'm very committed to the game. And fortunately, they forgave me, and I ended up becoming really good friends with a lot of the people that that didn't really care for me back when I was a player and a coach, and they ended up being great guys. So got into it, started at the youth level, amateur, and then again, I got in it for just local. Never thought I would be where I'm at or where I've been. Just thought I was going to help the youth, the junior college level there in Arizona. And fortunately, my first state cup, one of the referees that was selected to go to regionals ended up having to turn it back. And the SYRA at the time was like, "Are you interested?" And I was like, you know, heck yeah, let's do this. So I went to youth regionals as a 30-year-old, grade 8, and Kevin Stott was the lead instructor, mentor at the tournament. And you know, we get games always, obviously, throughout the week. And by the end of the week, I ended up being on the under 19 boy final as an AR, grade 8, first year. And so I was recognized by Kevin. My name you know, obviously the leaders of the region tournament recognized my potential, and just kept rolling after that. I upgraded each year. I got my game count. Back then it was, you know, you get your assessments, your game count. And I was able to upgrade each year. So by the time I was 36, became a professional referee and did the women's league. And by the time I was 37, I was a 4th official in the MLS. So, and now I'm full-time referee. Never thought I'd be where I'm at, but it's been a great ride. So.
Yeah, no, that's quite the story. You know, starting so late, I started late as well, but working a number of games with you, I've seen the same passion for the game coming from you as a referee, probably like you were as a player. So, which I think is why you've been so successful, and I've enjoyed working with you so much on that. So then, I guess a good question then, how have you seen the game change from when you started refereeing, or maybe even when you were playing, to where it is now?
So I think probably the biggest change is usually it was more aggressive, physical play was the norm. Usually giving the benefit of the doubt to defenders versus the attacking type of benefits to the attacking players. So you look at like persistent infringement back then wasn't really something that anyone really paid too much attention to back when I was playing and starting out. Now it's just so detailed. Now you got to know who's fouling who and just tracking that, just so we can have a game that's more open, more attractive, versus a lot of stoppages, a lot of physical play. So it's more beneficial to the attacking type of players, the playmakers, versus the aggressive, physical type of players. So the other thing I would add too is the ability of the players has obviously changed. Right, back in the day, it was more maybe direct, a lot of direct play, right? And then you had more of your faster, athletic, physical players. Like you could throw in there, I forget his name. What's his name? Kiso. He's from South Dakota. We were just talking about him.
Oh, Hauser?
Yeah, Chris Hauser. Yeah, so I'm like, those were those players back in the early MLS were physical, athletic, tall, can jump. And now it's more about technical, tactics. The players that really have good skills, they still have some athletic ability, but they're a little bit sharper with their technical abilities. And obviously the tactical has changed quite a bit. It's not so direct. It's more possession based, try to build, try to find, probe, trying to find the best way to attack certain defenses.
So with that, the laws have changed slightly. By slightly, I mean by time of year. The question here, do you have a law change that you really love? Do you have one that you really hate? And I guess kind of one of those, if you could change a law or implemented a change, besides assistant referees running the entire touchline, is there any other ones that you throw in?
No, I really like the restarts in the goal area. I think that makes sense. Get the game flowing. It kind of helps the defense play out of the back, which is important as far as opening up space for them versus trapping them in between the 18 and the touch line. I really like that. I like the opportunity to delay cards. If there's a potential quick restart, as for say denying of obvious goal scoring opportunity, a little bit of patience, quick restart, and now they go on to goal, and now we can come back with potentially a yellow card or no card at all, depending on the scenario. So I like that. I love the substitutions, going off the nearest boundary. That's a good one. I think that helps us as referees having to deal with time wasting. So those are good. Handball, I'm still not in love with it. The total changes. I think there's some where I'm like, common sense. I use a lot of common sense when it comes to handling, for example. I think one of the questions was, what's a handball these days? And obviously we're looking at, unnatural positions versus natural positions. But if you're going for a tackle, is it natural for our arm to go down to brace our fall? I think that particularly, I think that's taken away space. I love the old rule where if you're going for a tackle and you put your hand down and you eliminate a pass for that attacker to an open teammate. For me, I think we should go handballs, but that's probably the one that I don't like the most. So yeah. You're on mute.
I clicked on the chat box over here, so I was spacing all over. So I guess that's kind of about the game, how it's changed, where you came from. I didn't know if really quick, if we wanted to see if anybody had a question that they wanted to ask, or if they, wanted to follow up on, handball or the goal kicks, free kicks in the area, that kind of stuff, or if you wanted me to keep going down the list here, you guys can definitely message me questions too if you want, if they come up during the meeting.
I do have a question. I'm Matt Reedy. When you were transitioning from coach to referee, or player to coach to referee, what was the one thing that you wanted to see changed, as far as you thought when you're coming into a referee, you thought, well, I don't want to see this happen, or I hope I don't make this happen, or what call kind of bothered you the most when you were playing or coaching?
Oh, foul selection is always one that I've struggled with. Kind of what's expected, what's the game expecting on decisions. For me, if we can get foul selection correct, it makes the game a lot easier. Instead of, as referees, we talk a lot about managing. Managing means that you have players that are not, or coaches that are not, understanding what's going on in this game as far as the selection of fouls and so on and so forth. So that, for me, if we can get foul selection down and it's consistent, I think the game becomes easier. And I find that for me, there are moments where I screw up and I have to maybe manage the players or the coach. Maybe there's a grade decision and I need to maybe, again, manage or explain. I don't want to use explain, because I don't want to get in a situation where I'm explaining a lot. But there are those moments where I may have to explain a situation. Example, my first game this year, I had a outside back running at the goalkeeper who's way out of his penalty area, kind of close to the touch line, and he's playing the ball. It's on the ground. The ball's cleared by the goalkeeper, and the player just kind of a little bit out of control ends up running into him. And for me, a delayed whistle, just to talk about one of the things I wanted to change to your question, was delaying our whistle and seeing where advantages can be played. For me, when I first got in, I got goosebumps when I could read the play and see that I didn't need to call this foul because his teammate has a great opportunity. We can play advantage. The game's flowing, and the coaches and players get it. They're like, sweet, thank you very much, and so that I always got goosebumps when that was. But this particular play, the ball ends up going to the other end, and there's a potential advantage. It's not a clear advantage, potential advantage, and his teammate gets a touch on it, and then a defender tackles the ball. Ball goes out for a throw-in deep in the attacking third of the goalkeeper who was fouled by the late challenge. So there was a situation there where I'm like, okay, I clearly saw the foul, but I was hoping for this advantage. Didn't really materialize, but I still need to explain why I'm going to restart with a throw-in versus a foul in the defensive third. So for me, it's like everyone understood. It's like I gave a yellow card for the defender that came in late on the goalkeeper, a delayed yellow. But I'm like, hey, where are we starting? I'm like, I'm going to give you that throw-in up front because it's more beneficial than a free kick way in the back. And so delayed whistles, advantages, for me, that was, huge, along with the foul selection. So sometimes as referees, we look, especially when we're young and we're maybe inexperienced, we start to use our binoculars or our magnifying glass and trying to find little things to call. The players, for me, will kind of tell you when a decision needs to be made. Obviously, we're going to want to be in the right position, the right angle to see it. But sometimes there's gray areas where we're like, oh, there's contact here, but is it enough for a foul, or is it something that we can play through? So differentiating between what this game needs or wants and what's expected. So that was one of the things that I wanted to see changed once I became a referee. Good question.
Good.
Any other questions?
Yep. All right. So your typical game day routine. You have to fly in the night before, right? And
Yep.
so you kind of take us from there. Do you like coming in early or late? Do you sleep in? Do you take naps, meals, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's kind of changed over time. Early in my career, I had a younger family, wanted to spend as much time with them before I left the house. So it was usually the late flights. Now that my kids are a little bit older, now the pressure is building. It's obviously with my success that I've had, you know, I don't want that to fall off. I feel even more pressure to be successful and be the best referee I can. So now it's thinking about the little details, getting in early, you know, depending on, obviously, if I'm going west, you know, not that big of a deal because I gain an hour. And so if I'm going to California or Seattle or something, I can still take those late flights because they're shorter flights. There's not much impact on the body versus maybe going back east. If I go east, I want to take an earlier flight so I can just kind of relax, get used to the time change a little bit. Yeah, get in. Usually, if I get in early enough, we have a game prep workout that we have to do. So I'll go to the gym, and it's a 25 to 30-minute workout, just kind of preparing our bodies for the next day. They call it a game prep workout. It's just short sprints along with one long run with some jumps just to get the body moving. And that I find that helpful after a long flight too. It's beneficial, you know, get off my flight, get settled into my room, and then head to the gym, get that done, and then after that, go have dinner, and then hopefully get to bed at a decent hour. You know, I usually like to get to bed 10 o'clock or so. Morning, late breakfast, light breakfast, sometimes with the crew, sometimes with whoever just shows up. But then it's depending on the time of year when the EPL is going on. I love watching English Premier League matches in the morning. And that kind of gets me in the process of getting the mind right, you know, get me in a little bit motivated as far as preparing for that game that day. Also just thinking about situations that come up in those games, maybe foul selection, seeing, okay, this is how I like the game to be called. I don't really care for this foul or that foul that's been called in this match. I think as referees, we need to observe a lot of games and, you know, kind of see what you like, what you don't like, what the players are accepting, what the players are not accepting, and use that to educate yourself and prepare yourself for your matches. So lunch, a late lunch, if I have a 7 o'clock, probably 1:30 lunch, usually with the crew. I get my chicken sandwich with fries, and I love ketchup and mayo mixed together. That was one of the questions that I got. My thoughts on that. It's one of the great condiments that we use for fry sauce. We call it fry sauce here in Utah. It's already mixed up here in Utah. So, but everywhere else, I have to mix my ketchup and mayo. And then it's a nap. And then we arrive at the stadium 2 hours early, get our radios to Hawkeye so that they can make sure the comms are set up and working for VAR. We do our field inspection, and then we just start getting, individually start getting dressed. And then after the roster exchange, which is about 60 minutes before kick, we start our pregame. And one of the questions was, what is my pregame like? I think mine's a little bit more thorough than some others. Some guys are like, don't F up. For me, it's, even if I'm working with Kiso, who I love to work with, it's just reminders, make sure that we're thinking about the same things, and we're communicating what needs to be communicated in certain scenarios. Examples offside. I like to be proactive on defender play balls. So talking through those scenarios where if I think it's a defender play ball, I'll communicate proactively, defender. If it's a potential attacker, defender, who does it come off to? Again, I'll try to give him information, the AR information, attacker, so he can make a decision. There's also scenarios where I know I need help, particularly on crosses right in front of the assistant referee, and a defender turns their back and they've extended their arms. I'm more in the middle of the field. I might be looking through the defender's back and I might not have the best angle. So talking to my assistant referee just to remind him to watch for those crosses. Obviously he has the offside decision to worry about, but a cross and a defender extends his arm out there, chicken wing, I need their help. And then I talk for scenarios where I can help the assistant referee. Decisions where to his left are going to be difficult for him if he has an offside decision to be worried about. So trying to let him know not to multitask, don't worry about it, just stick with his primary responsibility offside. I'll get the foul or potential ball out of play to his left, because I know that would be difficult for him. So, and then, once the pregame, we just relax, maybe some music, and get out to our warm-up. I love my warm-up. So one of the things I do in my warm-up is I like to knock the ball around the last 5 minutes or so. And it's it's not trying to show off my skill or anything. Usually it's the short, quick passes, getting my eyes moving quicker, just so that I have the speed of play that I'm potentially going to have to make decisions. And I think the quicker I'm knocking the ball around, I obviously get my heart rate up, but I'm also working on my eye coordination as far as how quick are my eyes adjusting to a ball that I'm knocking back and forth with my assistant referee. So that kind of gets the mind going, along with my eye coordination going, just so when I have a decision to make and it's bang bang, my mind and eyes are ready to hopefully get that decision right. So
yeah, it's nerve-wracking when you start knocking the ball around with the assistant referees that haven't played in a while.
Yeah, it is, but there is usually one. I just need one to be able to knock the ball back and forth for my warm-up. So
good. Best piece of advice you've ever received? And then to kind of piggyback off of that, in your opinion, what's it take to get to the next level? Like, what's the one key thing that sets the next level apart?
Oh, okay. So as far as best advice is, be yourself. Sometimes we look at people and we want to be like them, and we'll take bits and pieces from people we observe and watch, or we like their performance. But at the end, just be yourself. I think you'll be more comfortable, more confident in just saying, this is me. Like the song in, what is it? The Hugh Jackman. What's that?
Greatest Showman?
Yeah.
The Greatest Showman.
Yeah, this is me, so this is what you get. Players, coaches, so be yourself. mistakes are going to happen. You know, the one thing, we just had a meeting with Bob Delaney, who's a former NBA official. And one of the acronyms he used was FAIL, F-A-I-L, right? So it's the first attempt in learning. So when we fail, I think we've all experienced failure. It's what we do after failure, you know? So do we quit or do we learn? So that would be probably some of the best advice I've been given, is be yourself and learn from your mistakes. They're going to happen. We want to referee some of the most difficult games. We don't want the easy ones. If you really want to get to the top, okay, we talk about wanting to differentiate, you know, how do we get to the top? Is getting the difficult games, learning from those games, and getting better from those. If you keep getting easy games after easy games, you're not going to develop, you're not going to improve. So hard work, humility, and passion, you know, so anything's possible. You know, I never thought I'd be here. I started at age 30, and it gets pretty emotional for me. One of the questions was in here, what was my, you know, biggest game? And it had to be my first MLS final in 2017. After the game went really well for the referee crew. You know, just emotions kept flowing. It was pretty, and now that I think about it, I kind of get broken up, because we talk about, everyone goes through adversity. The year before, 2016, I had not a very good year. And I had a particular game where I missed a red card. It was Nigel de Jong's tackle. He was LA Galaxy versus Portland on Darlington Nagbe. Nigel goes over the ball, almost breaks Darlington Nagbe's leg. I have a poor angle, no help from my crew, and I come out with a yellow. This was pre-VAR. And after I saw it, after I see the pictures of Darlington Nagbe getting, you know, wheelchaired out off the field, you know, those are the ones that stick with you. And it was kind of an eye opener for me, as far as there's a lot of pressure. You get a lot of criticism as referees, and sometimes it's deserved. That game was very deserved, the criticism I got after. And that night, slept like crap. The whole year just seemed like a crappy year. I actually called up my boss the night of, and I was like, look, I shouldn't be on the next game. And just to kind of go back, during the preseason, we have meetings with MLS teams, and they usually bring one pro representative in with one of us officials to discuss the professional referee organization's points of emphasis. And one of the questions we always get from players and coaches is accountability from referees. And sometimes you don't see it, because some referees are back on the field the next week. And with logistics and just how big this country is, hard to, you know, remove a player. And obviously you have the collective bargaining agreement, all types of things. So, but I'm one that likes to do it right. And I know some of my fellow officials are like, dude, you shouldn't have come off that game. I thought it was wrong of me to be out there. So I called my boss, like, look, you need to take me off. He did. He ended up putting me on a second division game just so I could get back on my feet, you know, get back out there and just kind of work through it. But yeah, it was 2016 to 2017, going through that adversity in 16 and getting to the final in 2017, and the performance going well. It was very, very amazing. And anyone if you have the passion, if you have the drive, and you have a little bit of luck and a little bit of, you know, support, anything can happen. So.
Good. You kind of hit a number of the questions that popped up over here. So that was good. So maybe we'll open it up again if anybody has a question right offhand that they want to spit out. Otherwise, I can keep on moving on here too. And if you do want to talk, either unmute or you can hold the space bar. All right. Alan, one of them that came across, it's probably a real quick one. What do you think about FIFA's proposal to allow 5 substitutions instead of just 3?
Well, where we're at with the potential of a lot of games in a short amount of time, I think it's common sense, you know. So obviously we want the best players to be out there, and if they're out there too much and they're overworked, their workload is too much, you know, the likelihood of them getting injured is high. So I think it's great that they've just, I guess they potentially through 2021, right? Is that what I was seeing? All the way through 2021. So I think it's good in the short term. Long term, I still think 3 is good. Once everything hopefully gets back to normal.
All right, we'll go to kind of the fun stuff that people like to hear about.
Okay.
Favorite venue?
That was a tough one. Seattle, obviously, in the final was awesome. Atlanta with their new, I don't like the turf too much, but the stadium is incredible. So if you ever, Portland always is a joy. But probably one of the best ones I've had is Soldier Field. I was able to do the All-Star game in 2017, Real Madrid versus the All-Stars. So Soldier Field was cool. So yeah.
And being back there now this year, hopefully that'll
Right.
their crowd. Well, maybe for next year, I guess. So then, as far as player-wise, who's one guy that always kind of seems to be a referee's player, and you know you can get along with, and you can work with, and then the other way, it's never going to work with you and going to be a little more difficult. So
Right.
this is being recorded, so just be careful.
Really? Oh, thanks. So I can talk about players that are no longer in the league, right? Yeah, Zlatan and I didn't get along very well. He's a great player, but as a human, you know, I don't know. He's different. Some of the guys that are class act are Carlos Vela, for example. High rate, you know. He communicates respectful. He's a good guy to work with. Will Trapp, who's now with Miami. He's a class act. You usually have 1 or 2 players on each team. In Houston, you got Zarek Valentine. He used to play for Portland, the right back. Class act guy. So, yeah, those are the ones I can think off right off the top of my head. Yeah, Kyle Beckerman has always been tough for most referees, but off the field he's a great guy. You know, he's got his job to do on the field to put pressure on referees and make them second guess their decision making and potentially get the next decision for them. I've always struggled with him throughout my career, but lately it's been better. So that he's always been kind of more difficult to deal with. So.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times people forget that it is their job, it's their livelihood. So they're trying to get every edge they can and just trying to win. So let's see what I got here. You mentioned MLS Cup 2017, great experience. Do you have like one decision throughout your career that you still kind of hang your hat on that you nailed it and kind of set you apart?
Well, in that game, there was a penalty decision. Justin Morrow's going down into the penalty area. I think it was Jordan Delim goes in for a tackle, gets a piece of the ball. It looks like one of those where it could be the attacking player gets a touch on it before the attacker comes in, the defender comes in and makes the tackle, versus a defender slightly getting the ball and playing it off the attacker's foot for a goal kick. And it was one of those where the body language too, obviously. For me, referees, sometimes we don't have the best angle, we don't have proximity, and we don't have all the information. And how do we get the information to come out with the correct decision? In this particular decision, I had the best angle, I had the proximity. I see it, ball goes off Justin, I give a goal kick, and there's a big shout. This is in Toronto. Toronto, it's 0-0. Toronto wants a penalty. All their fans behind are going berserk. And I give a goal kick, and I'm basically pumping my fist because I know I got this decision right. And it's always interesting looking back at the video and Taylor Twellman going, I can't believe he didn't give it, and then after a few replays, he's like, oh, he got it right, type of thing. So red cards are always big. Getting red cards, I think referees, when we get the red cards decisions correct, that's always helpful. When we miss red cards or penalties, it kind of leads to disaster. So that one was one of the bigger ones. Last year, I had one in as LA Portland, and one of I had just blown my whistle, and the guy ends up just drilling the ball at the guy's head. And in my mind, I know the whistle's not exactly before the ball was played, but I knew, like, this guy has no reason to be kicking the ball towards his own goal at that pace, and he knows the guy's going down. So that decision alone, ended up, I think, propelling me forward for last year. Getting, the next game was the big game I had was LA versus LA. And this was after I sent off one of the LA Galaxy players. And then it went on to the MLS final. So getting those big decisions right, it definitely helps.
Someone's asking about managing dissent. And is it different or the same as you move up levels of competition? Obviously, it's, different language used as you move up. And then kind of what are some of your triggers?
So I'm going to try to keep this more youth amateur level, because I think most maybe experience are dealing with that. Players adapt to whatever you're doing. So if you are trying to manage every dissent, they're going to say, okay, there's no real punishment for dissent. So I'm one, like, depending on the severity of the dissent, if it's very visual, with a ball slammed, or slamming the ball on the ground, or kicking the ball away in dissent, or along with a verbal, something to the effect of, what the hell, ref, For me, they deserve a yellow card. Management is something that you have to differentiate between, okay, is this going to deteriorate the game? Is this one where if I allow it, it's going to make the game worse for everyone, for myself, for the other players that are going to see this and say, okay, this is acceptable. So you as a referee have to determine, okay, is this something that if I manage here, is it going to change? Or do I need a yellow card to put everyone, not just that player on notice, everyone knows that this is not going to be tolerated today. So, you have to know what that is. For me, dissent is it's a point of emphasis at the top level because a lot of people are watching. Youth are watching, coaches are watching. So they see it happen on the professional level, they're going to do it at the youth level. So we need to be careful as far as understanding what's dissent and what is an emotional outburst. Emotional outburst is a quick, frustration type of comment or action, as long as it's not one of those big, slam, kick the ball away type of dissent. So we got to understand what's the emotional outburst versus what is dissent. So some of the things I use, if I am going to manage and it's a difficult player, pull the captain over. At the youth level, if you want to use a coach, have a little meeting, say, look, this is not going to be tolerated. He needs to change or else I'm going to go to the next level. So finding ways to deal with a difficult player, whether you can get a response from him 1v1, or if you need to use a captain or a coach to really get this through to not only him, but the rest of his players, that this will not be tolerated. But it's definitely something that we need to be stronger on, I think, as referees, because the more we allow it, the more the players are just going to continue, dissenting. And it's just going to make our games more difficult. So just to protect yourself and the referees down, because you got to think about the referees the next game, whoever referees the next game. If you don't deal with them appropriately in your game, they're just going to continue to the next, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and I like how you mentioned that what the youth players see, even up to the college level, what they see on TV, if it's not being handled there, then they feel that they can get away with it, and I know with soccer, everybody talks about, the simulation and embellishment, because for a while on TV, it was happening and it wasn't really being dealt with. And, so it trickles down to the next level. So,
yeah.
How do you referee now with VAR? Do you referee differently, or do you just do your thing, and if VAR intervenes, they intervene?
I work harder because I don't want VAR used in my game, because that means I'm potentially getting a poor assessment score. So I don't use it. I don't want to use it. If it's there and I use it, great. Scenario like I mentioned in 2016, bad angle. I don't capture the tackle over the ball. I would have loved it then. I think we would have taken less criticism as a referee and as an organization about that missed decision. I still probably have beat myself up because I don't like missing those decisions. So for me, understanding it's there is kind of comforting, but in the end, I don't want to rely on the VAR to referee my game. So. Are you there?
All right. So being South Dakota, I know we don't have a professional team. Shocking. But Minnesota United is kind of the local the local team here. One of our local clubs, at least in the Sioux Falls area, is associated with Minnesota United. And then over on the west side of the state, they're associated with Colorado. So we do have good connections with, at least with MLS clubs, and kind of getting some of that training and stuff player-wise. But I had Ryan asked if you had a favorite or at least favorite Minnesota United player.
Favorite or least favorite? Is it Kelman?
Yeah.
Is that his last name? He kind of went after me, so I don't follow social media a lot, but I was told by some of my other colleagues I called a penalty against him last year, and he went off in social. So he's probably my least favorite. Ozzie Alonso, I've gotten along with Ozzie really well ever since he played with Seattle. So yeah, you're on mute. I can't hear you.
Which is interesting because he's one with those emotional outbursts.
Yeah, but
quite often, so.
I think I've earned his respect through time, and I've built that relationship, with him over time. And I think the longer we get to know players and the longer we are honest with them and are respectful to them, they tend to work with you more down the road. So.
I got two quick questions here. As the state director of instruction, when we give feedback, when in mentoring, we usually do 2 or 3 quick hitters to referees. What 2 or 3 suggestions would you pass on to the new referees to help build confidence or just grow as a referee?
I would say watch as much soccer as you can. I'm a visual learner, so by watching, you're doing some homework, right? You're watching the player, referee's movement, trying to emulate them when you're out on the field. Their work ethic, their sidestepping if they're ARs, their change of direction, their patience, and how they interact with players and coaches. So watch a lot of soccer. I think that if anything, if you're not happy with the decision, I remember watching soccer and I'm like, oh, I could be better than that. I could, so it kind of motivates you in one aspect, like I could do better than this. And then you learn also from the mistakes that are happening that we make on national TV, and understanding, why things were missed or why a good decision was made. Sometimes we just watch it and we're like, oh, a good decision. Well, think through those decisions, why the referee put himself in a position to make that decision, or how he ended up managing a situation. For me, watching is obviously players, we learn from each other. So watching is one. The other thing, I think, just work hard. I think one thing I didn't care for as a player and coach was the lack of some officials kind of seeming lazy. The perception is that you were just there to collect money, right? If you are working hard, getting up and down, if you're an AR and you're even with the second last defender, you're going to get the benefit of the doubt. As a coach, if I saw someone working hard, okay, and they miss something, my anger was a little bit less, because I was like, this guy at least is out there working hard, so I'm going to give him, I'm going to let him know that I don't agree, but I'm still not going to blow up because I think this guy is just, or girl is out there not giving their best effort. So that's where effort and watching. Just to add to that, for me as a referee, I don't just look at the incident itself. I do, but I also look at body language. Body language tells us a lot. So when you're watching a game, when you're watching clips, I hate clips where it cuts off right after the incident happens. It doesn't give you the whole picture of everything. Maybe that action, the guy pops up and he continues running. Could be a red card. Like you could see a stomp on a straight-legged tackle on a leg of an opponent, but the guy that gets tackled pops up and he's continuing to run, right? So as a referee, I'm like, okay, the game's not expecting a red card. It has considerations there for a red card, but the player is telling me I'm okay. I can play through this. So for me, I would like really try to look at the whole picture. Obviously, look at the incident, but what are the players' reaction? What is expected? When someone does something guilty, the tendency for a player is to, I didn't touch him, or if they handled the ball, they put their arms behind their back. It's kind of that guilty, I'm guilty, gesture that they don't really think, they aren't thinking through. It's just habit. It's kind of like a kid. When they do something wrong, they go hide, right? It's just kind of human nature that people do certain things, and it's the same thing on the field. So when you're watching, kind of observe the incident, but take the time to assess the player's body language. Body language will tell you a lot. It's just like on a throw-in, right? You don't know who it came off of, but one team goes and grabs the ball and the other team goes back for a throw-in. Do I really need to point, which direction it is? Because everyone knows except for me, what direction it is. So the body language sells it. So I hope that answers your question. Kind of added on to that, but.
That's fine, and I'm hoping we get one or two from the group here while I let them rethink. The second follow-up question is, what do we owe you for taking Jeremy off our hands? We've been carrying him in South Dakota for a long time, and it's nice to have someone else carry his weight now.
He represents you guys well. I'm just saying, he's a great addition. He's at the beginning of each year, we have the ability to write down who we want to work with and who we don't want to work with. And Kiso, I think, is probably on every referee's list because he's a great guy. He's easy to work with. He works hard. He wants to do the right thing. So he makes good decisions. So the fact that it should be, a shining light for you guys as far as South Dakota, that anything's possible. I came from New Mexico. He came from South Dakota, not big hotbeds soccer-wise, but I think I want to say rural people, I think are blue collar. We work harder. We have a little bit more passion, and it bodes well at whatever we're doing, whether it's refereeing or out on the farm working. It's that blue collar. Let's get our hands dirty and let's get to work. So we love them.
Yeah, so we're getting right at that hour mark. I don't know if anybody has any other questions that they wanted to throw out there real quick. He's kind of touched on a whole array of topics, from mayo and ketchup to Nigel the Young injuries. So if anybody's got anything, feel free to chime in. I'll just give you a moment.
So over the past 3 years of my refereeing career, as an assistant referee, I've had several head referees tell me different things as an AR for the offside signal.
Okay.
Some referees tell me if they don't see it right away and the defense regains control and they have full control and they're making their way down the field, to just set it down because they obviously have the possession. and others say you keep it up there until I notice it or wave it down. What do you say about those two conflicts?
I think the first one is the best answer. You as a AR have to understand that that team has the ball and they're going forward, and just because I think that distracts the players for one. If you continue to hold that flag up, I can't imagine you being with the second to last defender with your flag up still, and not in position for that next play, the next potential play. So the correct answer is, if they have possession and they're not deep in their third, I don't want someone just because they have possession, they're deep in their defensive third. That's not, we want something that's beneficial. They're now moving into the middle third or attacking half, where they have plenty of time, then drop it. If there's uncertainty, keep it up. But I would suggest, if there's clear possession and we can add flow to the game versus a distraction, that would be the best option in that case. Does that answer your question?
Yep.
Good. Those are difficult, without comms, comms, it's easier because right away offside. But one thing I think even at the youth level and the amateur level, we need to be patient on, obviously the ARs need to be patient on the flag to make sure there's interfering with their opponent. But we as referees have the ability to play advantage as well, where usually when headers by a defender, maybe there's an attacker nearby, but the defender plays the ball back the opposite direction, not towards his goal, but back towards, but maybe there's some contact. We have interfering with the opponent, but the defender clearly heads it and it's going away from his goal. Be a little bit patient and see if it goes to his teammate, and we can add game flow and almost just play an advantage. We can wave our AR down. Talk about some decisions. Advantages. This is one that I really like, is when an AR pops his flag and the ball ends up going to a defender's teammate, and we can add game flow and we don't have to stop the game. So I think it goes both ways. Thank you for the question, Porter. Any others?
Hey,
I suppose
Alan, this
that'd be
is
it.
John Freeman. I've been reffing now for a couple of years, and I was wondering, there are some people I really like working with and some people that I don't. Where does Jeremy Kiesel rank on your list of people you do or do not like working with?
You're not from South Dakota, John.
Close enough, closer than you.
That's true. Where does he rank? He's in my middle, like sister. I love working with him. We haven't really have you bailed me out, Jeremy, on any big decisions?
No bailouts, no.
He's consistently good, so he's about, of my assistant referee, he's in the middle tier, kind of creeping in towards the top tier.
I'll ask you the same question off stream later. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks, John.
For those of you not aware, that is the John Freeman that will be joining us next week as well, who decided to jump in tonight. Thanks, John.
You gotta love it when your colleagues jump in on you and try to punk you a little bit. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. It's good.
On behalf of the state referee committee, obviously we want to say thank you. Obviously appreciate your time and willingness to help out, give some advice to the administrators on here, the young referees on here, and us guys who are in the middle somewhere. So we appreciate you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I hope some of my communication or my dialogue helped any one of you. So if you have any other questions, Kiso has my information. If you want to talk one-on-one, I'm free, you know, with the time that I have right now, plenty of time to have a discussion with anyone if you have questions about refereeing. So thanks, I appreciate it.
And I would imagine you're like me. We crave this stuff. We love talking through situations, talking about different scenarios, things that happen. So yeah, feel free to ask questions. We're here to answer them for you if we can. So
no matter where you're at in your career, whether you think you're past your prime or you're young and you got a lot of, you know, or you have a lot of experience, you can help yourself, you can help someone else. So, you know, we're kind of in this together to hopefully help the referee community, hopefully help the game. Obviously we're here to service the game. So, you know, let's all try to get better, help each other, and be the best referees we can. So hopefully we can kind of sway these players and coaches to think, hey, we're out there doing our best. So
awesome. Well, two-time MLS Referee of the Year, two-time MLS Cup referee. We appreciate it, Allan. Thanks for joining, giving all your input. As Chad had mentioned, we'll have John Freeman next week, and he'll be more VAR focused, so video review focused. He's one of the most efficient in the league. Very, very good at what he does. Picked up on that really fast. So if you've got some VAR questions for next week, same thing, Wednesday, 7:30 Central Time, 6:30 Mountain Time. And, you know, VAR is very, very new. So he's been right in there from the beginning. So he'll be able to answer some of those questions. So kind of the same setup. If you send some questions beforehand, we'll have them ready to go. And then if you come up with some more during the meeting, feel free to chime in. So
I'll be back next week, John.
I'll see you there.
awesome. Anybody have any questions for administrators or for myself? Awesome. Thanks for joining. It was fun to see so many people on here. Feel free to send feedback to whoever your assessor or your assigner or instructor is. Do we kind of keep these going and get you guys some more information. So everybody have a good week.
Good job. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Kiso. Appreciate it.
Hey, you bet. It was nice to see so many people on here. It was good.
And 41 people.
Good. And there were a lot of questions, and a lot of them came in throughout the meeting too. So that was really good. It was a little challenging to try and read questions and focus and all that stuff. So
Unmute yourself and whatnot. It's all good. You could have had a 2-year-old on your lap for half of it like I did, you know.
you didn't have to host.
Nope.
So, all right. Have a good night. Everybody. Take care.
See you guys.